Hey everyone, Mike here from MLive.com, joined by Justin Rogers. Dramatic win today from the Lions. Justin, 24-23 against the Saints. That's as dramatic a comeback as I can remember, dating really last year to the Cowboys game. Huge difference between 4-3 for this team and 5-2, which is where they sit now, tied with the Packers in first place in the NFC North. What's your big takeaway from this game?
You know what? It was really the way all the parts played together in the fourth quarter. The first half was boring. The most, I think the refs had more passing yards with their yellow flags than Matthew Stafford did. But things started clicking out of the locker room. I thought the adjustments that the offense made and the defense made really started to click, and then everything just kind of came together. And it was even the crowd noise really played into it. It seemed like they really fed off the energy there, and the offense played off the defense played off the offense, and it just took so long for it to come together. But when it did, you saw what this team can be.
And we also saw the flaws of what this team is right now, which is with the offense, and not to dwell too much on the negatives coming out of a win, but these are things we are starting to see every single week now, and they're becoming sort of systemic. I know Calvin hasn't been right for a number of weeks now, but I know there are 101 yards in the first half from the offense. It's just not good enough. One third down conversion in the first half. It's just not good enough. At one point, they were 3 out of 30 on their past 30 third down attempts. And so there's just all kinds of problems, and they emerged with a win today, and you have to give Matthew Stafford credit for the game-winning touchdown pass to Fuller and the 73-yarder to Golden Tate, which was a lot of Golden Tate making something happen,
obviously,
and so forth. But at the same time, they cornered themselves into taking a loss in this game, and give them credit for coming away with a win. But there are things that this team has to correct going forward.
I thought they put a big emphasis and priority on Matthew Stafford staying upright in this game. I think they almost overcorrected in the first half. He was getting rid of the ball very quickly. They were running on a lot of first downs, trying to, hopefully set up second and third and shorts, which they didn't. And it resulted in kind of a stagnant offense. They corrected. There was a little bit more play development in the second half, and you saw the offense start clicking immediately. They had that 12-play, 80-yard drive where it was a nice mix of pass and run. Stafford went something like 6 for 6 for 55 yards in that ballpark, and that's where it really started clicking for him. He had another long drive that obviously was derailed by the Jordan Thompson tip ball interception, and they had a third long drive. So the offense really moved the ball well in the second half. I think somewhere around 250 yards. So it's a positive sign with Calvin Johnson. I think he's going to play in London. I know we're kind of still in the air in that one. I think he's going to play. But without Calvin Johnson to put up 250 yards against, it's not a great defense, but it still was a good sign going forward.
The big development that I saw with the offense in the second half, when they really started getting something going, was when they got something going on the run, on the ground. They got so little in the first half, and they started Reggie Bush again and gave him a couple of runs, including on a third and short. And I just don't get why they do that, because he's not a between the tackles runner. I'm not sure if he ever was, and he's particularly not at this point in his career, and with only having really one good ankle at this point. But they did, and they didn't convert it, and that's puzzling to me. And he had 4 carries for 10 yards in the first half, and 4 catches, but only 11 yards. And he just wasn't very effective. And then the Lions went away from him in the second half. Caldwell said it wasn't a benching, but that it was he hurt his ankle, re-injured that ankle, and so they were using him sparingly because of that. But the running game as a whole is not giving the Lions enough. But when it does get going, and we've seen this a few times now in the second half of games, is they do get something going, particularly with Joik Bell, and they move the ball. They sustain drives and they score points, and that's something they don't do when they're not running the ball effectively. And to their credit, they did it eventually in the second half, and things turned around. But that ground game is a big mess for the Lions right now.
And on the defensive side, somebody asked me what would be a successful defensive performance against the Saints. Obviously, a win is what you want best, but I said probably under 350 yards, 21 points or fewer would be a really good defensive game against a very potent offense. The Saints obviously had a bit more in terms of yardage, but 23 points is still a pretty good day.
I think it's excellent.
Yeah,
it's excellent.
Especially considering that Brees had something like 330 yards before they got to the fourth quarter. He got to the fourth quarter, and they clamped down. I talked to several defensive linemen. They said they fed off the crowd noise. They fed off the energy. So when they finally started getting home with their pass rush after giving Brees enough time to, as I put on Twitter, roast marshmallows in the pocket. lot of time there. The secondary was picked apart. I wouldn't say exposed. It's a Hall of Fame quarterback with time. It's going to happen to the best secondaries in the NFL.
Well, hey, Breeze is great, and so you have to give them credit for holding Saints, however you do it, holding them to 23 points, and with the offense playing it the way it was playing, and the turnovers, flipping field position, I thought that the defense held pretty good, and I think Glover Quinn made the biggest play of the day, which was stealing that interception, really, there in the fourth quarter and setting up the game winner to Fuller. I talked to Glover after the game, and he said he basically tricked Drew Brees into throwing that ball. They were in a cover one, and they showed the same look they had been showing all game and all year long, which is with Quinn, the deep man, and the Hedibo, the shallow man. Well, somebody, and he wouldn't take the credit for it. I'm pretty sure it's Quinn, but he wouldn't say. But somebody called an audible at the last second, which inverted the safeties. So Quinn would play shallow and Hedibo deep. Only they kept showing the same look, and Quinn knew that he could show that look because it was a 3rd and 10. And the play was going to take a long time to develop, and so he had time to sit back and then invert after the ball was snapped, and he did that. Breeze never saw him and picked him off, and that led to the game-winning play with Fuller. Just a huge play from a savvy veteran.
It was interesting. I mean, it's kind of a game of redemption, not just for Quinn, who gave up the longest play the Lions have given up all season, and that 46-yard touchdown to Kenny Stills to start the second half, and then Fuller, dropped what was potentially a touchdown before he was able to catch a touchdown. So, some guys had some really trying moments in these games, and they were given this opportunity to fix it, and it's kind of been the story of their season so far.
One thing I looked at too was and we haven't gotten to him yet, but Golden Tate. What a signing this guy's been. I remember when the Lions signed him, $31 million in the offseason, their big star guy in the free agency period. And I remember people yelling at the Lions about not taking a defensive back, which you can understand because given the way the secondary looked in the offseason, there needed to be upgrades and that kind of thing, but they gave it to a receiver. And this guy has just been money since he came here, no pun intended. And with Calvin out, he's been huge. Now 3 100-yard games from him, career high today, over 150 yards from him, including the 73-yarder. Just outran the secondary. He flat just outran them. And that was the winning play for the Lions.
Talked to him earlier this week, and he was really disappointed with his performance in Minnesota. He caught 7 balls in the game, but didn't have a lot of his yards after catch, which he normally does. He dropped what he said 3 or 4. I think he was credited 2 officially. Said he left his hands in Detroit, but he found him again. They're going to be faithful to him.
We saw him out there today.
They were faithful to him today for sure. This was his best game as a Lion, best game of his career. That 73-yard touchdown is what sparked life into this building because it was dead in here. It was about as
people were leaving.
Yeah, people were leaving. It was quiet, and rightfully so. I mean, the team wasn't giving them much to cheer about. That created hope for the offense, the defense, for the crowd, and it brought everything together.
One thing that gets kind of overlooked given all of the dramatics that happened in the second half, Matt Prater banging in a 21-yarder off the left upright. You don't win this game without those 3 points and a 21-yard gimme. And I think it just kind of speaks to a little bit to the problems they've had with the kicking game this year. But yeah, 21-yarder banged in off the left upright, 3 points to win the game.
It looked like he kicked that ball as hard as he possibly could. And I don't know why. I mean, it just came off his foot like a rocket. I have no answers for the King game at this point. I mean, you keep expecting it to be corrected. They brought in Alex Henry, who was a career 86% guy, very good. Obviously, going back to Nate Freese, who was perfect his senior year in college. Now they're bringing in Matt Prater. The guy was a Pro Bowler last year, 25-26. He's missed more field goals in his short time here, in his first game here, than he did all of last season. This is a dome. This is a good kicker. I have no answers for anybody anymore.
The curse of Jason Hansen.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, if we're gonna go logic out the window.
Lions are 5-2 on the season, heading into next week's game in London, across the pond against the Falcons. The Lions arrive on Tuesday morning in London. I'll be there as well on Tuesday morning. So keep it rated. I'm live. We'll have a bunch of coverage from across the sea. Lots of team crumpets for me. For Justin Rogers, I'm Kyle Meinke. We are M Live. Keep it right here.